Well, good morning, friend, and welcome to another episode of The Kingdom Within. I came to work this morning to work on a presentation called The Power of Language, and well, there's another facilitator in the main room there doing a training on Zoom, so we haven't got the Zoom room up and running, so I'm in the Zoom room just talking on this camera for a little bit and let him do his presentation before I start putting mine together because I'll tell you what, I'll have a hard time focusing on what it is, how I'm going to put a presentation together when I'm listening to someone else doing theirs. So I come in here to talk about my favorite topic, which is, well, Jesus and His Holy Spirit. Why, of course. I'll tell you, I don't know how to make heads or tails or anything. The truth of the matter was, this morning when I got up early, the Holy Spirit told me to come to work early. And I was thinking that can't be right because it's way before work time. Well, if I'd have showed up then I'd have been here before his presentation got started. My work would be done. And I'd be able to do the rest from home or what have you. But that's okay because it really doesn't matter. That's the thing about this Holy Spirit. God is forgiveness. The Father, He's not going to judge us. In fact, I was reading that this morning and I posted it on my Kingdom Within page. It was John 12:48 or something or other. He talks about that He wasn't going to judge you, that on the last day that His Word would judge you. What He meant was that you would know His words and then you would be judged according to your own thought about what it is you've done. He won't have to say a word. There's no judgment needed. We judge ourselves all the time. That's the reason I love this Holy Spirit, because it's taught me that there's nothing to judge except for, well, love. Love is the purpose of the world, and if I focus on that, then I don't have to worry about judgment because I don't have any judgment for anyone. I have the truth of love and the love of truth, and that's the only thing that really matters to me anymore. I keep coming and doing what it is I'm supposed to do for work, and I have to live in this world. But Jesus said be in the world, but not of it, and so I try not to be of it, so I do what I need to do. And my job is helping people. All of the trainings and the groups I run are all about supporting people, helping them find a newer, higher truth of themselves, or helping other people learn how to find a better truth for someone else. So it's, even though it might not be the truth that I have with Jesus, well, it's a truth of a person being a better person, and that's just as good as it gets. So it doesn't matter whether it's mental health or faith. At least I'm doing the right things for the right reasons, and that's what really matters in my life now. But I really do want to teach this love of Christ full time. That's really where I'm headed. I'm hoping. I don't know. The Holy Spirit tells me that all I got to do is keep coming and He'll do whatever it is that needs to be done, because I don't know what needs to be done. My last video was from yesterday morning when I was out looking at that RV. And I don't know what will happen from all of that. I went out and looked at it, and I sat on the couch just like I'm sitting on this one and thought for a while. Kind of engaged in the environment to see what was going on, and I'm just willing to do anything for my Father. Whatever it is He calls me to is what I'm going to do. So even though I want to teach the love of Christ, I only want to do it if that's what my Father's will is, but Jesus made it very clear that that's what He wanted. So if you follow that message of Jesus, sometimes it makes our lives' decisions much easier because, well, we head right down the right path. But if you're not ready for what it is He offered yet, well, then you have to still make the decisions on your own and kind of make decisions based on what it is you want. Because, well, that Jesus wants you to have the kingdom. But the kingdom is something that you have to choose for yourself. It's not something that my Father chooses for you. Jesus was the firstborn and the only begotten Son. And he laid down a path for you to find this kingdom, but you don't have to wait till your death. You can have it in your life. A lot of people think that kingdom's coming in their death, and they're just not getting the truth of what Jesus said because, well, people have talked about how it is you don't have to listen to what it is Jesus said. And said that you don't have to live up to his expectations. But Jesus himself said it over and over that just like I said about that Bible verse about being judged by his word. It's not that he's going to judge you. You're going to judge yourself. If you said you knew Jesus and then you didn't understand or read his words, well then, what are you going to know at the end of the age? And I'm not telling you to read the Bible because the Bible has way too much in it, and it was for different times, for different places, for different people to get to the place where the place was ready for Jesus. So Jesus' message is the one you need now. Once he came, everything else became irrelevant. Because he came to teach that love was the purpose of the world and forgiveness was the way to find that path. He not only talked about it, he also showed it. That's the reason he told Peter to take that sword into the garden with him. Remember when at the Last Supper, he told them this isn't a time for peace, it's to bring the sword. And then they threw two swords on the table, and he said, that's good. Well, all they needed was one in the hand of that Peter so that Peter could lop that guy's ear and Jesus could heal him. Because what that did was that gave you the absolute truth of what Jesus came for. And that was, here it was, the person that came to whip, beat, and crucify him, to haul him away to be killed. He healed that man. So his last act of free will was healing. That was the statement. How many times have I heard people say about that statement of him saying it's time to bring a sword and not realize why it was he said it? But you have to have that Holy Spirit to understand these things because the Holy Spirit's the one who reveals it to you. I never really saw that until the Holy Spirit showed it to me. But there are so many things about that message of Jesus that if you really just make that message your focus and stop focusing on the rest, you're going to start finding little things in there that are going to start putting together in a different way than what it is that you were taught. Just like I found a completely different set of things than what I was taught. Friend, I was brought up in that hellfire and brimstone stuff in one of the churches that I used to attend with some family, and I'll tell you, I got saved because I was afraid of hell, which really wasn't getting saved. I was just went down and did what they wanted because I was terrified of this God was going to send me to hell for eternity. And what my father showed me is that's just not the truth. But it was right that Jesus left that thought lingering out there so that those that weren't willing to rise in the spirit of love would do it for the fear of God. But as you can see, that there's just not a whole lot of fear of God left. Even quite often you see all of these things that the Christians are doing are no different than what everybody else is doing. People have come to say that if you believe Jesus died on the cross for you, that you can just do whatever you want to everyone else and get this kingdom in your death. And that's not what Jesus said. And it's not what he meant. And if you'll read what Jesus said, go by a Bible with what Jesus said and read, you'll see that that's not the truth. The truth is that love is the way, and that hell isn't for eternity, but it's for the eternal moment of now. And if you think you escaped it and you left Lazarus starve outside of your door and you did nothing but worry about your own selfishness, friend, you escaped nothing, because Jesus told you right in those parables. He told you that in your death you were going to be across a great divide, and that his disciples would owe twice the debt. Why would Jesus say that his disciples would owe twice the debt? These are things you need to ask yourself. It's not that I'm sitting here talking about scary things, because I'm not talking about this eternal hell. I'm talking about this suffering that we cause each other, and because we refuse to look at the truth of who we are, we refuse to look at what we're doing to each other. And, well, the price is you see it in the world. How often do we claim righteousness and we have none? Yet, Jesus told us, he said, why do you call me good teacher? Only one is good, that is God. So I know that there's no goodness in me except for the goodness that's in me through my Father. And the goodness that's in me through my Father, I give him the credit for. So that thought of Satan can't steal and cause me pride, because pride is the most dangerous thing for me. Just talking on the kingdom within, that's really my true fear. It's not so much my fear of other people as it is my fear of my own vanity. But the Holy Spirit showed me that I don't have to be afraid of that, because as long as I don't take the credit for this message and I say that it is my Father who speaks through me, then I'm giving him the credit. So that's what I say. You'll hear me throughout these episodes sometimes say that of myself I am nothing. It is the Father who doeth the works. Not even the words I speak are on my behalf, but on the Father who sent me. Because what I've learned is that when I speak for him, for love, then I don't have to worry about it. And if I give him the credit, then I don't have to keep it and worry about that thought of Satan puffing me up like a rooster and making me want to take credit for anything. Because that's where my downfall happens, friend. Over and over in my life, every time I take credit, I see that that's what ends up happening. Because it's in the judgments. That's where the problems are. The problem is that for me to be more, you have to be less. And for you to be more, I have to be less. But Jesus said we didn't have to think that way. That's the way the world thinks, and that's the way the world wants to play the game. That's the purpose of this thought of Satan. But this thought of Satan has no power over you except for the power you give it. Jesus told you that. That's the thing about it, is that you just can't know the truth until you know it for yourself. But you can't know it for yourself until you get to know that Jesus and ask the questions that, he told you could say, mountain move and be cast into the sea, and the mountain would move and be cast into the sea if you believed and did not doubt. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever tried it? Have you ever thought about how to do it? I mean, in the beginning, I was doing it for the vanity of it. To be quite honest with you, friend, I was trying to figure this Jesus out long before I was ready to really know Jesus. Because I was in pain and suffering and I didn't understand it. But it was through finding these answers is what brought me this kingdom. And I come to see what all the riddles meant, exactly the way my Father laid them out for me to understand them. And I don't need to give you all the answers, because you need to go find them for yourself. I don't want to be nobody's in between. I'll tell you that Jesus, I love him dearly, and he's the Son, the only begotten Son, but he's the firstborn, friend, and you can be another born child. All you have to do is choose it. Because all of us are my Father's children. He's not sending anybody to eternal hell. I know that that's what people are thinking, but they didn't get to know that Jesus well enough to understand that doesn't make any sense. Because Jesus told us to forgive our neighbor, to love them even when they hate us, to turn the other cheek. Well, friend, if he called us to do that, wouldn't my Father do it? You see, that's the thing, is that you have to do the things that Jesus asked to come to a conclusion that's greater than the one the world has. The problem is that quite often religion is set on other people's ideas. Men are getting degrees from men on God, and that isn't what Jesus said. Jesus said, be glad I go to the Father, because I go to the Father, the Holy Spirit will come to you. And when the Holy Spirit comes to you, even though what I say is true, and even greater truth will you be given. But everybody keeps relying on someone else to go have this relationship to get them into the kingdom, and that's not the way this works. This doesn't work by me going and receiving the kingdom, and therefore you can have it for yourself. You have to choose it for yourself, just like I have to choose it for myself. And I'm not talking about perfection here. I'm talking about an honest attempt and building relationship. People talk about this sin, and I'd listen to Christians talk about how they're better because they haven't done this or didn't do that, or that person's evil because they've done this. Friend, I'm not here to judge anybody for any of that, because the truth of the matter is, I told you, I didn't come from the light, I come from the dark. My Father loosed my chains and set me free. And that doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it means that I know the truth of love and the love of truth, and I keep heading down this path toward my Father the best I absolutely can, because I don't know how else to do it. So I just keep reading this message of Jesus and keep doing what he asked and keep listening to this Holy Spirit and doing what the Holy Spirit tells me. Well, except for this morning when I didn't come to work early because I was feeling lazy, and I should have listened to it, but I didn't. That's okay. I'll just be working a little later today than what I was planning. That's okay, because I have some other groups to run. But that's neither here nor there. So this message of Jesus is got the keys to the kingdom in it, but you've got to unlock his message to unlock the door to the kingdom. And you can't get it by believing in what somebody else said. So I don't want you to believe a word I say. That's the truth. Even if you believe it, I don't want you to. I want you to go read what Jesus said and figure out if what I'm saying is what Jesus said. Because I'm not here to be anybody's golden lamb. See, Jesus was trying to keep you from turning him into the glory, even though he was saying he was the glory all along. There was more going on there than what people are seeing. When Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, he talked about that no one would believe even though we testify and our testimony. They won't believe our testimony. Why was Jesus talking in plural? Get to understand these things, friend. I mean, stop letting other people give you your truth and start getting down with this message of Jesus and start noticing every little word, how he said it. Look at every parable and tear it apart and ask yourself, is that what it really means? Does the church really, are the preachers telling you what Jesus' message meant? I've never heard a preacher say that the disciples will owe twice the debt at the end of the age, because it completely contradicts that John 3:16, and you're going to get into a free kingdom. All you got to do is go to their church and give them money and act like that you're doing something when you're doing nothing. So I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm here to tell you, get that message of Jesus, and then you'll know what's right and what's wrong, and the truth that you're looking for, you'll find. But if you've already found it, then you don't need to hear me anyway, right? The truth is, I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I see that I'm just one child of God. I'm not more or less than any other child. My Father loves all of us equally. And therefore, there's nothing for me to be anymore except for what it is I am. And what I am is for him, because he's for me. And therefore, the thing that I keep focusing on the most, friend, is love. In fact, my roommate this morning asked me if I'd been watching the news, and of course I hadn't, so she was like, oh, well, Trump got coronavirus, and I said, okay, and the same thing with a coworker at work asked me, because I don't watch the news. The news doesn't have anything for me anymore, friend. I've come to realize that everything they're feeding us really is a bunch of lies, and, well, those corporations own everything, so I don't really worry about this world anymore. Jesus told us to be in the world, but not of it. And though there was a time when mental health advocacy and a little bit of that type of thing was more my thing at the time, but the Holy Spirit showed me that that's not my purpose. So you have to decide what is your purpose, and you need to seek God to know the truth of that. Each man has to come to these truths for himself, or woman, because I'll tell you, one's not better than the other. And I do say that sometimes on here because I still hear Christian men sometimes talking about that the man is more than the woman, and that's just not the truth, because, well, those of you that have really got down with this message, you would have understood what Jesus meant when Jesus said that the Father is of spirit. Spirit has no body. So therefore, is the Father really Father? when he said image and likeness. Was man really made in the image and likeness of God in body or in spirit? These are the questions and the things that you need to ask, because I'll tell you, quite often I think that women are far more like the Father in spirit, because they're more like the Father in love, because of quite often mothers are very loving, and so therefore they are much more like my Father in spirit than I think a lot of times men are, because we get taught that we're supposed to protect everybody from the world, and that's just not the truth. That's not what Jesus said. So my message isn't for everybody. I realize that most people aren't going to believe a word I say, and I just don't care, because I'm on here to talk about the truth of love and the love of truth. And my Father showed me that nobody will believe a word I say, but that they didn't believe Jesus either. And since they didn't believe him, and he told them, and he told us when he told them that if you come to love him, the world will hate you for it. So I expect most that are trying to pretend as though that they're righteous, but really aren't reading what Jesus said and doing what Jesus asked, I expect them to hate me. I don't expect it to unite your house. I expect it to divide it. It did the same with my house. That's the way this works, friend. There's just no way around it. Birds of a feather flock together, and if you stop being of their feather, they won't want you to flock together. That's the way that works. Because I'll tell you, I've been to churches, and one of them, because when I talked about when I went and asked the preacher some questions, he gave me some answers, and I said, well, I don't see it that way. That wouldn't make sense to me. This is what I believe. And he said, well, you're allowed to believe that. You're just not allowed to say that out loud in our congregation. So what I found is churches want you to buy into what it is they're selling you, not necessarily buying into really negotiating to find out what the truth is. So I'm not here to tell you the truth. I'm only here to hopefully make you really question the truth you have and look for a greater truth if you don't like the one you have. And if you haven't found out that my Father is the love you seek, then you haven't found the truth that I imagine you want. So that's just what I do. I just get on here and talk for the Holy Spirit, because I don't know what else to do with my life anymore. There's just nothing else for me to be except for what it is I am, and what I am is for the sake of being for itself. And if you get to understand that statement, you'll understand that you're for it too. And when I say it, I mean it with a capital I, friend, because if my Father is of spirit, then he is not of body, and therefore he is not a man or woman. He is merely the original consciousness that created all things. We have taken this and blown everything way out of context. When you think of God as having a body, you think of him as Zeus on Mount Olympus, and that just isn't the truth of who my Father is. And that makes you think that one person's greater than the next, and it's not, because when Jesus told you that I'm in the Father and the Father's in me, he meant that, but he also meant that you're in the Father and the Father's in you. And you can know that because he said to hang all the laws and the prophets on only 2 commandments, and that one was like the other. Love thy Father with all thy heart, mind, and soul, and love thy neighbor as thyself. So if he said one is like the other, then that statement literally says that you are in the Father and the Father's in you, and whatever I do to you, I do to my Father. And therefore, if I judge you, I judge my Father. And if I judge me, I judge my Father. And therefore, I can't judge anything without judging my Father. So I don't make judgments anymore, friend. I get down here and talk about the truth of what Jesus said and about the love that I've found through it. But I'm not here to cast judgment, because Jesus said he didn't come to judge. So I don't come to judge either. However, Jesus would speak the truth, and so therefore I let the Holy Spirit say whatever it wants to say through me, because I will talk about truth. I just won't do it in such a way that I'm trying to judge you, because it's not about judgment. What happens is, until we start really questioning our own truths, until we can see that we're just being self-righteous, we can't find a higher truth. As long as I thought I was right, I couldn't see I was wrong. But the Holy Spirit showed me that even though I was right, I was wrong, and because I was wrong, I was right. These things won't make sense to folks that are looking to make more sense of this world, because this world wasn't meant to make sense. If you think the insanity that's going on in this world makes sense, then you're not going to make heads or tails of what I say any more than what Jesus said, because both of us sound insane if you're trying to judge it by these world standards. Because I'm watching all of these Christians go to war killing each other in the name of God, and that just isn't what Jesus said. They just did not get a thing he said. He said that offenses must come, yet woe to those who bring them. What part of woe to those that bring them do not the Christians understand? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm here to talk about things that he said, but I'm not here to make a judgment about it, because the truth of the matter is, friend, that I completely see that in order to make this world work, if you want to be of the world, then you're going to have to do what the world does. I was doing that, friend. I was doing that, and I was thinking that way, and I used to watch all kind of violent stuff, and I can't say that I haven't done a little of that violent stuff in my youth, and I don't have a love for it now, and I really didn't have a love for it then. I just didn't know how to be anything different. And I still don't, but my Father knows how to be it for me, and I just give him all my love and all my thoughts, and let him give me what he gives me in return, and that's a better truth about what it is I am. And I am a son of God, just like you are a son or daughter of God. It doesn't matter. We're all here as equals. When we start seeing each other as equals, the judgment goes away. Honestly, friend, you'll notice on this camera that I rarely, today I'm dressed in a sweater because I'm at work, but you'll notice that I'm usually in a t-shirt on these videos. I quite often wear a hat. I've kind of grown a beard. Friend, I'm going to great lengths to make sure that I don't get prideful again. Because I'll tell you what, the more prettier I look as far as the world standards, and the more I worry about what other people think of what I look like, the more invested in the world I become. So I've come to see that my Father loves me no matter what, and that this is about me being me and not being what the world wants. And what happens is I've become a better person by not worrying about what it is the world worries about me. Instead, I just know the love of Christ, and I keep doing what he asks, even when I don't know what to do. And I'll tell you, friend, there's a lot of times that I don't know what to do, even though I know all the while. And that just is what it is. And this Holy Spirit's led me down a new path, and this path is worth traveling because I'm enjoying every minute of it. And except when I don't, and that's when I turn from my Father for a minute or something, thinking this world has something I want. But it only doesn't take me long now to figure out that I was wrong again. I'm at the point now where I really don't try to turn to the world at all, but I still do, I guess, every now and again. But this isn't about getting it right, it's about getting wrong and keep coming. It's about fail forward fast. That's how you find the kingdom. Successful people become millionaires because they fail forward fast. It isn't that they didn't get it right, they just don't quit when they fail. This kingdom is found the same way. It's not about getting it right. You just learn to say, "Forgive me, Father, for I know not what I do." Say it often and just start down this path. And start reading Jesus all the time. And start looking at what he said and meant. Because I'm not here to talk about fear and all of that. But if you can't see what's coming, then you just aren't looking. See, he puts things on my mind and I want to talk about them, but I don't really want to talk about them because, well, like I said, the purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. But we keep making decisions in this nation and in this world that just aren't right, and because they're not right, well, my Father's going to do what my Father does, even though it's not really him, it's us, because you don't understand that my Father does what it is our will is. People think that he's doing stuff to them, but they're really doing it to themselves. Jesus told you it's not what goes goes into the mouth that defiles man, it's what comes out. It's what we put in our mind. We watch that news all the time, and it feeds us all kind of fear and hate, and that's what we think about, and what we think about is what we bring about. And it's not just on a personal level, friend. This goes much bigger. So when 1,000 people get together and think about something, that thought becomes strong. My Father's will is your will. And so therefore, we should all be mindful of what we're thinking about so that we can bring something greater together. But that's not what's going on in this world. People think that Trump is Cyrus the Great. I've heard Christians say that. I just don't see it. But I'm not here to get on a political bandwagon because it just doesn't matter anymore. But we have to look at what things represent what, and if you haven't looked, maybe you want to look now, friend, because I'll tell you, the dragon is a corporation. If you can't see that, that's okay, but that was the thought that in Revelations was talked about, that we would create this thought of Satan and give it flesh. And that's what a corporation is. Once it's publicly traded, it takes on a mind of its own, and it has rights of a United States citizen, and pretty much that way across the world. They pretty much do whatever they want. And, well, if the CEO gets conscious, they'll just cut the head of the snake off and replace it. That's what the board will do. You don't understand it. You think they're being our servants, but in the end, they're going to be our masters. But it doesn't matter. I'm not here to try to tell you how to stop it, because we can't really stop it. If you stop it, you create more havoc. I'm just here to talk about the truth of love and the love of truth. And Jesus said, be in this world, but not of it. So you don't have to figure out how to save the world. Right now, the light is bright. That's the reason I talk about these things in these little brief spurts when I do. It's not about fear, it's about love. Right now, there's lots of love and lots of light. If you want to get to know this love of Christ and you want to be like Him, now is a perfect time to be so, because there's all kinds of ways to get involved in being a volunteer to help people and to do things and to be what it is you would like to be for my Father. Because if you're in this nation, well, there's a lot of people that get the opportunity. They can choose this thought if they want. Now, I'm also aware that there's also people that are so lost that they hear this message, they hear nothing at all. And I completely understand that too. And each of us are at different places on this journey. And I'm not here to talk to everybody. I'm here to talk to whoever it is my Father wants to listen. Because I'm aware that what I say doesn't make any sense to a lot of folks. Because I'm often saying that the only truth there is the truth that you choose, and the truth you choose is the one you have, and other than that, there's really no truth. Because Jesus really told Moses the only real truth there ever was, and that is, I am. I am that I am. That's what God said, and that's what God is. He is that He is, and because He is, He created us, and because He created us, we are what we are. And it's we who choose what it is we are, but the problem is we get hung up in this world and we can't see that what we declare is what we become. And when we make declarations with our mouths, they become our reality. And I don't know about you, friend, but I did not realize I was creating my own reality with all the negative talk all the time. I was always blaming everybody and everything else for my problems, and so it left me unable to turn to this Father and give Him what it was He had, because I couldn't see that it was me that was bringing it on myself by letting my words betray me. Now I know, friend, I don't put that news and all that negativity into my head, because I don't want that negativity coming back out of my head. And whatever I put, it's just like, I would rather feed my body junk than my mind junk. That's just the way it is for me. Because I'll tell you, I just don't want that negativity in my mind anymore. That light of Christ is the greatest thing ever, and forgiveness is the path. And if this makes sense to you, then I'm glad. If not, well, I hope maybe you'll find a way to make sense if it does. But all you have to do is read that Jesus. That's all. You don't have to believe a word I say. If you read what Jesus said and let the Holy Spirit define every word, stop letting other people define this message. Either if you don't believe in Jesus, then that's fine. But if you do, then He said that the Holy Spirit was going to come and give you the truth. So stop believing anyone else is going to give you the truth and start believing He's gonna. Take a Bible with what Jesus said and read, and take it out into the wilderness, whether that be the bedroom alone or in the park, your backyard, it doesn't matter, but go off by yourself, take that message and start reading what Jesus said and start trying to figure things out. Start understanding what He meant by that you could say mountain move and be cast into the sea, and that it would be done if you believed. Friend, I don't know why it is that these Christians don't want to know that answer. I don't know why it is that everybody isn't asking that question. I don't know why it is. It's not about doing it, it's about understanding the riddle. There's a riddle to it, but it is true because Jesus said it, and therefore I knew it was true, so I was trying to figure out how it could be true if it isn't true. And that's what's happened is I've come to see the truth of it, but it's not about me giving you the answers to the riddles because you won't believe my answers. Go to the Holy Spirit and think with Him. Spend hours looking at a mountain, thinking about how you can make it move. Ask all the questions. Not only how do you make it move, but why would you move it? What would be the purpose? I mean, ask all the questions, friend. Ponder these things. That's why Jesus said these things. He said these things so that you'd really think about them. And then what would happen is, at the end of you figuring out the riddle, you'll realize there's no purpose in moving the mountain. But you've got to go through a whole process of thought in order to get there. And that's what that does, is that strengthens this thought of love of Christ in you by believing what He said and then looking for the answers. And it will change your whole way of being. I'm telling you it will, because it did to me. So I believe that if you really get down with this message of Jesus the way Jesus meant for you to, then, because when He said, eat my flesh and drink my blood, He wasn't talking about bread and grape juice, friend. That's a ritual, but Jesus was said to be the Word. And therefore, the body of Jesus is the Word, and His blood is the Holy Spirit. So therefore, eat His Word and drink the Holy Spirit. This Holy Spirit is your holy thought, and if you start getting down with this message of Jesus, you'll find you a new thought that you didn't know that you had. And you might find out that you had it partly and didn't know you had it all along. But I'm telling you, the better you get to know Him, the better you get to know this thought, and the more that you'll be able to be what it is you want to be. That is, if you want to be for my Father and my Father for you, then that's what you want to do, is get to know this Jesus. All right, friend, well, I guess they'll be about getting done their presentation in the other room there, so it'll be time for me to get back to my desk so I can get to working on my presentation coming up. And well, I have to be a little more intentional on my words, but I'm not really. Tell you the truth, I kind of let the Holy Spirit just do the presentations for me too, but I do have to put a little thought into it, because, well, so that I have it right in my mind. Not like when I get on this camera. When I get on here, I never know what I'm going to say until the moment I say it. I kind of turn this camera on, actually shut it off the first time and turned it back on, because, to tell you the truth, I didn't know what to say. I'm not used to doing it here. I got this blue background. I feel like I'm on screen or something. But it doesn't matter, because it's not where I'm at that matters. What matters is the truth of love and the love of truth, and so that's what I talk about, because it's the only thing that really matters to me anymore, that has any real significance in my life, is this love that my Father's given me, and my only real purpose is to give it back to Him, and the only way to give it back to Him is to give it to Him and give it to you. All right, friend. Well, I love you because my Father loves you, because you're worth loving. And I just hope you find that out because you're worth loving. And I would love to see everyone be happy and in love with themselves for the truth of what my Father is in them. All right, friend. Well, may God bless you and yours.